Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Hi there. Welcome to Benchley Night, or really, in this case, Benchley Afternoon. This is the first time, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to try recording a Benchley Night because this evening I am driving Betty Sue to the train station in Albany, New York, where she will be boarding the Lakeshore Limited to Chicago, and then tomorrow we'll hopefully, all going well, we'll board the Texas Eagle back to Austin, Texas. It's been wonderful having her here. She is upstairs right now, feverishly working on getting work play everyday planners out to people. If you don't have your work play everyday planner yet, go to workplayeveryday.com and order it now. Order it now, ladies and gentlemen, in time for delivery by Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, today's reading, The Rise and Fall of the Christmas Card by Robert Benchley. Now, this was written probably about 1930. So the postage was a very different price at that time. It was either like 1 or 2 cents per letter. The Rise and Fall of the Christmas Card. 25 years ago, December 21st, 1685 to be exact, a man named Ferderberger awoke after a week's business trip and realized that he hadn't bought any Christmas presents for his relatives and friends. Furthermore, all he had left from the business trip was 80 cents, 2 theater ticket stubs, and a right shoe. So he cut up some cardboard to fit envelopes, and on each card he wrote some little thought for the season. Still being a trifle groggy, he thought it would be nice to make them rhyme, although, as he expressed it with a modest smile, I am no poet. The one to his aunt read as follows: just a little thought of cheer, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. He liked this one so well that he just copied it on all the others. Then he got excited about the thing, and he drew a sprig of holly on each card. He mailed them on Christmas Eve and discovered he still had 28 cents left. This man, Ferderberger, is now wanted in 32 states on the same charge, starting the Christmas card menace. His idea immediately took hold of the public imagination, and the next Christmas, all his friends and relatives sent cards to their friends and relatives. Here's a picture of Mr. Ferderberger being very pleased with himself. He doesn't look very groggy, though. For taking the old lie that it isn't so much the gift as the spirit in which it is given at its face value, they felt that people would be much better pleased with a friendly greeting than with a nasty old gift. And for a while, the custom really was quite a relief. Then the thing began to get out of hand. Big Christmas card manufacturing concerns sprang up all over the country, and factory sites adjacent to freight sidings were all of a sudden at a premium. Millions and millions of cards were printed, and millions of people began sending them to each other. Along about December 15th, the blight began, and like locusts, the envelopes started drifting in from the mail. 75,000 extra mail carriers were drafted into service, and finally the government was forced to commandeer all males under the age of 25 who did not have flat feet. Even at that, all the Christmas cards could not be delivered until the first of the year, and by that time, the flood of New Year's cards had begun. For everyone who received Christmas cards from people to whom they had sent none rushed out and bought New Year's cards to send them the next week, just as if that was what they had intended to do all along. it became impossible to read all those cards, and finally, even to open them. Great stacks of unopened envelopes covered desks and hall tables throughout the country. Some of the wealthier citizens had chutes built on the outside of their homes, into which the postmen dumped the cards, and by means of which they were conveyed directly into the furnace. The poorer people, unable to convert their mail matter into fuel in such a manner, unable sometimes to clear a path from their front door to the street, often starved to death before their provisions could be got to them. The winter of 1927 was known as the Winter of the Red Death, for all over the country, families were snowed in with envelopes and perished before help could be brought to them. In some towns, fires were accidentally started with results too horrible to relate. Unearth valuable scientific data. Excavators who have recently been at work in the Middle West, digging through mounds of petrified envelopes, have furnished valuable data on the nature of these objets d'art. The most popular design seems to have been that involving a fireplace with stockings hanging from it, with the slogan, evidently satirical, "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year." Candles were also highly considered as decoration. Candles and bells. When human figures were introduced, they were of the most unpleasant types: short, fat, bearded men dressed in red, offensively gay little children in pajamas carrying lighted candles, stagecoaches filled with steaming travelers, sleigh rides and coasting parties, and street musicians annoying householders with English Christmas carols. The text was usually in Old English type, so that, fortunately, it was difficult, if not impossible, to read. Evidently, the tide began to turn when someone, perhaps a descendant of the very Förderberger who had brought all this distress on the land, thought of the idea of venting his personal spleen in his Christmas cards. He thought that, since no one read them anyway, he might as well say what he really felt, so long as he said it in Old English typography. It would be a satisfaction to him anyway. So near the top of these mounds of early 20th century Christmas cards, we find some on this order: a picture of a holly wreath with a large hammer stuck through it, and the following legend: "Just to wish you the measles. Christmas 1931. Another showed a little cottage on the brow of a snow-covered hill with the sun setting behind it. On the cottage was a sign that said, "For sale." The sentiment underneath was, "Peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Ha, ha, ha." A New Year's card with "Greetings" embossed at the top read, "If I don't see you in 33, 34 will be soon enough for me." As soon as this fad caught on, the pendulum swung the other way. The sentiments, beginning with the mildly abusive, gradually became actually vicious. We find one dated 1938, which says, "This Christmas Eve, I want you to know that if you don't leave $50,000 in box 115 before New Year's, I'll sell your letters, you crook, you." Another, in a wreath of mistletoe, bore the following explicit legend: "Watch your back." It was naturally but a step from these to downright obscene vituperation, and at this point the Reformed societies stepped in. A campaign was carried on throughout the country, which, unlike other reform campaigns, had the backing of a majority of the public. It was but the work of a year or so to induce the necessary 2/3 of the state legislatures to consent to an amendment to the Constitution forbidding the manufacture and sale of Christmas cards. Naturally, this was followed by a period of bootlegging. And here's the picture, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the picture of the bootlegger. How do I hold that? There we go. There's the bootlegger and his customer. Naturally, this was followed by a period of widespread bootlegging, but it was half-heartedly supported and soon collapsed. All of which is merely a historical summary of what has been done in the past, preliminary to launching a campaign against the sale and manufacture of all Christmas presents, with the exception of toys. What our fathers did, we can do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Benchley Afternoon. And now we have to thank our patrons. Those of you who are kind enough to be paying subscribers to my Substack, which is my old mailing list. It is very appreciative, and all monies raised go to one quixotic cause or another. And we have to thank the unidentified unglet in a can has to thank Ms. Carol Burning, Kate Fry, Rita Bruns, Ann Cousins, Lizzie Grosso, Nancy Bass, Susan McCula, Nancy Flanagan, Christina Stockman, Busy Graham, Catherine Fisher, Nancy Radzik, Deborah Lovett, Susan McNeil, Marlon Gibson, Terry Widener, MJ Brush, Jean Fry, Helen Siksik, Sonia Jackson, Martha Rowley in Saxton's River, Vermont, James Gilbraith, Jeb Hart, Cindy Baker, John T. Wilhelm out there in Omaha, Nebraska, and in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my very, 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 very tall cousin, Nat Hunter, his wonderful wife, Elise, and their wee little dog, Ginger. We will be back next week, ladies and gentlemen, with an actual live Benchley Night. But until then, thank you so much. Take good care. We'll see you soon.